So we'll go to a story that has dominated the headlines from last Sunday, and it has to do with an alleged rape case. And Accra Magistrate Court has denied bail to Ace broadcaster Kwesi Dakwa. The accused, popularly known as KKD, charged for rape, will reappear in court on January 8. And our reporter Jerry John Akuno was there.
Kwesi Dakwa is standing trial for having unlawful carnal knowledge with a 19-year-old girl, Erefia Olens Thompson, at the African Regent Hotel washroom during a fashion show. The legal team for Kwesi Dakwa, led by Nana Asante Bediatu, pleaded that his client be allowed bail. Lawyer Asante Bediatu argued that although unlawful carnal knowledge is a non-bailable offense, it has never been the intention of the legislator to deny KKD his liberty. Lawyer Bediatu stated the fact presented before the court by state prosecution does not support the charges leveled against KKD. State prosecutor ACP Moses Atimbila drew the attention of the court that a prima facie case has already been established against KKD and must not be granted bail. Defense counsel lawyer Santi Bediatu told the court a reasonable trial can only rely on the fact presented before the court and that the issue of consent has not been fully illustrated. Lawyer Asante Bediatu indicated that so long as there is doubt, KKD is innocent until he is proven guilty. State prosecutor ACP Moses Atimbila also told the court the fact that a complainant entered the hotel room with KKD does not imply she has agreed to have sex with him. Lawyer Asante Bediatu pleaded with the court to grant the accused bail, adding that KKD has a fixed place of abode. There are those who stand sureties for him and will be present at every stage of court proceedings. The trial judge, Her Worship Ajwa Echama Ofosu, remanded KKD into police custody on the grounds that the magnitude of the offense by law makes it non-bailable. The case was adjourned to January 8, 2015.
Wanted to have his face polished, and the woman was supposed to do that for him. Some makeup. The sex was done in the washroom. Yes.
Even though the crime of rape on the statute books is non-bailable, in certain circumstances the courts have granted bail, and I cited several cases in which the courts had granted bail. But we'll take it up further.
KKD was arrested at the African Regent Hotel on December 27, 2014 on a charge of rape.
All right, and there's a lot of interest in this because of KKD, and legal practitioner Samson Ladi Ayenini is arguing that it's not criminal to show or publish pictures of victims of sexual assault in the media. Now, photographs of the girl, the said girl in the KKD's alleged rape scandal, has gone viral since last Sunday when the case was reported at the airport police station. And Samson is on the line now. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Merry Christmas, Bridget.
Yes, thank you. You too. I hope you're having a good time.
All right.
Right. So, you mentioned it's not criminal, but a lot of people think that it exposes them to attacks. Social media, the girl has been ridiculed, and you're saying it's not criminal, and people should not be charged for irresponsibly displaying the pictures?
What I said is the law. I didn't say what I felt was comfortable or was good. It's not criminal, and that is what it is. What is prohibited by law expressly is what you find in section 39 of the Children's Act, which says that when there is a case involving a child, that is a minor, you should not publish their details and disclose their identity. You can only do that with the permission of the court. The basis of what I try to suggest to contribute to a discussion to probably have a relook at the DG's code
is that
more importantly, I'm sure you will remember how many times TV3 and other television stations, newspapers have covered people, alleged accused persons who have been paraded by the police, and photographs have been taken of them, and all of us got to see them and tag them as criminals even before a trial started. But the Constitution in Article 19 is very clear that an accused person is innocent until a court of competent jurisdiction has declared him guilty, him or her guilty of the offense that the person is charged. If it is wrong, and that is what it is wrong to do that, it is equally wrong to disclose the identity of a rape victim. But if we find in this country that that illegal practice should continue to go on, I see no reason why we should not disclose the identity of an adult female who alleges that they have been raped. Because I say the human right of both parties is involved here. We're dealing with a democracy where human rights is critical, where rule of law is critical. The GJA's code of ethics, which says journalists should not publish their identities or disclose the identities of victims of rape, is not law. And in fact, to the extent that it does not correspond to the laws of this country, it is offensive, it is discriminatory, and it ought to be looked at again.
All right. But let me also pick your thoughts on it, because the GJA president is in the studio here and he would definitely be responding to that. So do you think the law should be really looked at?
Sorry, what's the question again?
I'm asking, do you think that we should probably be looking at it and review it? Not you mentioned, I mean, media houses publishing publicly showing faces of suspects who haven't yet been pronounced guilty, and then in this case it's sexual related. Obviously that is very sensitive. So should we be looking at relook at that issue again?
Oh, all of them are sensitive and very critical matters. I have defended accused persons who, before the trial started, lost their jobs, lost every conceivable source of income they would have had to be able to feed themselves and their family and their dependents, simply because there was a publication in the newspapers that this person had engaged in some criminal activity. You're telling me that it is okay to leave this adult victim of rape, allegedly, to protect that person and not protect the accused person. The accused person who might be found not guilty in the end. And this person who accused that person will not suffer any adverse thing in the end.
And you heard Samson Ayenini there talking about the fact that, I mean, we should protect everybody, the accused and the complainants. Your thoughts on it? Even though the GJA says that we should protect victims of sexual assault, in this case we're talking about the complainants, right?
Certainly it's a hyper-sensitive issue, because the dignity, the very livelihood, the very lives of the team individuals are at stake. First of all, let me attempt to respond to what Samson said.
He said, that the GJA code is not the law. Samson is a respected
member of our profession, at the same time he belongs to the other side, that's the law.
Yeah.
And we commend him for the frequency with which he responds to issues and the education he offers freely to journalists and listeners as far as the law is concerned.
Sure.
But I think it will not serve any useful purpose to attempt to do any legal equalization or to attempt to square the dictates of the law against the ethics of the profession. The ethics are an intrinsic part of our profession. The ethics are our professional Bible and Quran. The ethics constitute, they are fundamental principles which constitute the very act of being a journalist. So the difference between a journalist and someone who masquerades as such is a respect for the ethics of the profession. In this case, in this particular case, Article 14 of the GJA Code of Ethics, we state emphatically that journalists must avoid identifying victims of sexual assault. And Article 16 of the same code also specifies that journalists should use tact and diplomacy in publishing such stories. And you and I will testify that we will be tactless as far as this story is concerned in identifying the victims of the sexual assault. And what we have done is to inflict hellish trauma and emotional purgatory on the victim of the assault. And
Right.
this is bad.
Okay, but something makes a very important point that what if, right, KKD has been accused. In this case, we're using this case as an example that he has been accused. He hasn't been found guilty yet. There's already stories out there. I mean, in the case of Bill Cosby, he's had some of his shows that are coming up in February cancelled and all that. He's also going through something. And so why are we putting him out there and we're not putting the girl out there? That's the argument that others are making.
And this is what I'm referring to as legal equalization.
Yeah, yes.
I think we should refrain from doing just that.
Doing that. All right.
Let's confine ourselves to the ethics of the profession, which basically Article 14, which says journalists must avoid identifying victims. And that article did not say the perpetrators of or alleged perpetrators of sexual assault, but the victims of sexual assault. So I believe this should serve as the parameters within which
we'll come back and talk about the haste, putting people. I mean, we've seen that happen in the case of the Nayeli at Metapur, where the very first person whose pictures came out, nothing happened to them, and what GJ is doing about it. But we have another lawyer on the line. She disagrees with Samson Ladi's view that it is not the law, and she's a lawyer Clara. She's also a legal practitioner. Good afternoon to you, ma'am, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your viewers.
All right. Did you listen to Samson's points that it's not the law? The law says that we should protect everybody. It's not just the victims of sexual assault.
Well, I didn't listen to Samson's point on that issue.
All right, but he simply says that the law doesn't say we should expose people. Once they are suspect, they haven't been proven to be guilty until such a time they should all be protected, given the same priority, whether it's a victim or the complainant or the defendant.
Now, it is correct that the law hasn't said anything about whether or not to publish accused persons or not. However, it must be noted that under our laws, proceedings are generally supposed to be held in public, which means the process in public. Anybody can go into the court to listen to what goes on. But the law is silent on whether or not the images of accused persons should be published or not. But we must also be careful not to equate the accused person with the victim. The two are not the same. An accused person is not on an equal footing. In a criminal case, we have this, we call it the Republic versus the accused person.
Okay.
They are the main parties in such a case. The victim is only a witness. The complainant is only a witness in that case. So the complainant is not a major player. The two major players are the Republic and the accused.
Actually, so the state that is prosecuting the one who has been accused.
Precisely.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, but I'm sure there are others who share his view. How do we go about it? Should we be looking at the law again?
Well, when it comes to that issue, the appropriate place to look is the professional ethics of journalists.
Sure.
What do their professional ethics say? It's not everything that is about legalities.
Sure.
For every profession, we have our own code of ethics. So the proper question to ask is, what is in the code of ethics for journalists? And
it is Article 14 of the DJ Code of Conduct says that we should not publish victims of sexual assault. It's very clear in that.
So in that case, it is wrong to push it back to the law. Sure. I would give an example. If a person is charged with rape, it is not a defense to say that I didn't kill anybody. The reason being that killing somebody is not one of the ingredients of rape. That is murder. So you cannot push the discussion into murder when they are talking about rape. Sure. So if the issue is whether or not professional ethics have been breached, it is fundamentally flawed to abandon that argument and go into whether or not what is legal. The question is not about legality here, sure, but professional ethics.
And being sensitive to victims.
Exactly. We also have to think of the kind of society that we want. I am not a psychologist, but I do not believe that the psychological effect on rape is that easy. And I do not believe that it is very easy for rape victims to report the rape. I don't think as a society we want to make it worse for them. Right. The victim here doesn't have a role in whether or not the image of the accused is published. The victim has no power over that.
All right.
So to seek to turn the argument against the victim, I think it's not proper.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Clara, there also saying that, well, it is the law says something else, but the GJA as a profession, GJA as an institution has its own code of conduct that binds every journalist. What do you think about it? Go to our social media platforms, News on TV3, add News on TV3, and post your thoughts on whether you think that, I mean, the law says we shouldn't, both the accused and the victim, but the GJA says we shouldn't publish victims of sexual assault. I'm sure you've seen, I was on the point that we had the issue of Nayeli Ametepe, where Media House just rushed to put someone else's face out to be the first to break the news. And in this case too, we had another girl who was in our studio to say that I am not the victim of that sexual rape and sexual assault, and it's happening. Why have we come to this point? Is it because the GJA is refusing to punish institutions that does that?
It's not an issue of taking punitive action against offenders. It's reinforcing the need to respect the very canons of our profession, the very principles which underpin this very serious profession called journalism. And again, back to our code of ethics, Article 1 says the public have the right to true, accurate, fair, balanced information. They have the right. It's not a luxury. It's a right of the public. Once we decide to do the job, then we should not inflict anything at all on listeners or viewers or readers. Whatever we send out there should have the substratum of facts. It should pass the test of accuracy, the test of fairness, the test of balance, and other principles which underpin this profession. We understand the indecent haste with which journalists try to scoop or even out-scoop each other, because our job is becoming so competitive. In fact, it can be likened to a competitive jungle. But there's no excuse at all for any journalist to perpetrate falsehood. Because journalism is not the perpetration of falsehood, but the dissemination of discernible facts.
Do you think the social media is also putting some sort of pressure on media houses? Because sometimes news breaking online before it's carried on radio or it's carried on television. Do you think it's in any way, I mean, making it difficult for journalists to be professional? But should that also be an excuse?
Social media, admittedly, is making it hellishly difficult for journalists to do their job, because many are those who just swallow hook, line, and sinker anything which is fed the public. And we, as professionals, should make a world of difference by putting out only discernible, credible information. We should avoid at all costs, regardless of the instinct to scoop or scoop. We should. And again, back to our code, it says...
But what has happened to people who have done that? What has the GJA done to... I mean, whether it's presenters, I've seen certain things on air that shouldn't be on air, certain words that are being used on air that shouldn't be on air. What has the GJA done to people like that?
We have so many ways, as I say, there are so many ways of killing a cat. And
like what?
Like naming and shaming. But naming and shaming is more punitive than physically beating the offenders, because the ferocious backlash of those who are so named and shamed tells us the effect, the punitive effect of this mechanism of trying to put people in ethical shape. And we do not only name and shame.
Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. But before you go, can we get to a point? Are we pushing to get to a point where there's some sort of collaboration between the NCA, National Media Commission, and Ghana Journalists Association to take the licenses of TV stations, radio stations, online media that just breaches it? You stop them from publishing. Are we pushing to get to that point? Because until we get there, if I do it and I can still be allowed to stay on it, they will do it again.
Bridget, this you are taking it to a different realm altogether. And during the last elections, when Ghana was teetering on the brink of self-destruction, the NCA was in a quandary as to what to do. NMC was also at sea as to what to do, because NMC by law is to monitor content and not to issue or withdraw licenses. NCA also only issues licenses, but has no power.
We need to be one.
Exactly. So under the new broadcasting law, but the there's an attempt to merge the functions of NCA and NMC,
yeah.
so that we'll all be clear in our minds as to who has the power to issue license and withdraw at the same time.
Right. Thank you very much.
But let me take this opportunity
to
wish a media celebrity a happy birthday. And her name is Bridget.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, you have the GJA president, Dr. Afel Money there. What do you think about it? I mean, on things you've seen on social media, how has it affected you or your opinion of people? And then later you get to know that, well, that wasn't really the truth.